And I mean, I can understand how he could come up with that. I mean, I could see that. I mean, how in the world, I mean, you know, ignorant black folk couldn't have done anything but build pyramids. I mean, that's, you know, apes, they built the pyramids, and modern science, they still don't know how them folk built them to this day. They still can't figure out how they got them stones up on top. These are people that don't have no science. But these are the kinds of attitudes that have been promulgated down through time.
What if I told you slavery didn't just put chains on black bodies, it tried to erase black identity? What happens to a people when their names, families, language, history, even their memory are taken away? Today, Dr. Fred Price explains why this may be one of the greatest untold consequences of American slavery.
This book, I don't even have to answer the question, they answer it for me. On page 21 of this book, The Journey of the Songhay People, they state, and I quote, "Oh, you got to get this. If you don't get this, then you're not interested in blacks. If you're a black person and you don't get this, you're not interested in yourself. And if you're a white person and you don't get this, you're not interested in us." Now get this. I quote, "Knowledge of race history is to the race exactly as an individual's memory is to that individual." Let me drop that on you again, because that heavy, that this deep. We going deep now. You got to get this though. You got to get this. Listen to this, because I know that this thing just went to the air today, and when the rest of it gets to the air, people are gonna. I know what black folks gonna do. The field folk. They're going to be upset with me. They're going to denounce me. They're going to talk me. Now, you watch it. Your friends and relatives, they'll do the same thing. Oh, the house. Yeah, that's the house. I'm sorry. Stop. No, the field folk, they're the good folk. Yeah. We the field folk. Hey, field folk. I'm sorry. I meant the house folks. You know them house people? They're going to jump all over me about this. But here, get this now. Quote, "Knowledge of race history is to the race exactly as an individual's memory is to that individual. The masses of African Americans suffer from partial cultural amnesia because of a certain deliberate program which wiped the slates of our memories clean of true African events prior to the cotton fields of America." But the monsters who perpetrated this cultural genocide were not satisfied. After wiping the memory slate clean, they wrote upon those slates a series of vicious lies. They wrote on the slates, on the minds of all, black and white alike, that the African is really an ape which can speak. They wrote on the slates of the minds of all that the African evolved in the heartland of the jungles of Africa, where not even the faintest glimmer of light of science and learning could penetrate. They wrote on those slates that this African subhuman has neither the genetic ability to learn nor the ability to behave properly. They program all of this upon the minds of all, black and white alike, end of quote. I agree with this because the history of this nation bears it out. On page 23 and 24 of the same book, they ask an important question and answer it superbly. Why study modern history or any history at all? Two of the greatest benefits that can be derived from the knowledge of history is not only the receiving of a better understanding of the present, but more importantly, that knowledge of history will provide the information with which to shape the future. Place yourself in the position of a successful businessman who, as a result of an accident, has a sudden loss of your memory. You would not know where your office is, nor how to get there. You would not know what successes you had achieved, what you are supposed to do today, nor how to plan for future successes. For all of your knowledge and experience would be entirely lost. You would have to start all over again. You would not know the reasons for your present situation. You could not call on experience and knowledge to plan for a successful future. If your business rival stole your records, they could tell you all kinds of falsehood. They could reduce you to an impoverished, blubbering idiot. That condition is called amnesia. Amnesia is not just limited to individuals. A whole race can have amnesia. It is a truism that history is to the human race what memory is to the individual. Now, that's awesome. But how true? Cicero, first century Roman writer, statesman, and orator said, and I quote, this is awesome. Listen to this. There is very little that is more important for any people to know than their history, culture, traditions, and language. For without such knowledge, one stands naked and defenseless before the world. End of quote. We don't know where we came from. All of our names are white names, taken from the slave masters. We don't know what our ancestors called us. They wiped the slates clean. That's why we've been defensive, because we don't know self. We don't know where we came from. Someone else has well said, and I quote, "He who does not understand the past is doomed to repeat it." End of quote. These statements sum up in a nutshell my reasons for bringing up the past. Moving right along. Let's examine some documentation that sheds more light on how this inferiority of the black man lie got started. Oh, this is in a book entitled Infected Christianity by Alan Davies, copyright 1988 by McGill Queen's University Press, page 13, the author states, and I quote, "The philosopher David Hume, who happened to be an 18th century Scottish historian and philosopher, the philosopher David Hume had this to say about the black man, and I quote, I am apt to suspect the Negroes and in general all the other species of men, for there are 4 or 5 different kinds, to be naturally inferior to the whites. There never was a civilized nation of any other complexion than white, nor even any individual eminent either in action or speculation, no ingenious manufacturers amongst them, no arts, no sciences. End of quote.
You's a liar!
And I mean, I can understand how he could come up with that. I mean, I could see that. I mean, how in the world, I mean, you know, ignorant black folk couldn't have done anything but build pyramids. I mean, that's, you know. Yeah. Apes, they built the pyramids, and modern science, they still don't know how them folk built them to this day. They still can't figure out how they got them stones up on top. These are people that don't have no science. But these are the kinds of attitudes that have been promulgated down through time. And some of you got these attitudes in you now. You know it, and I know it, and God knows it. And you need to be cleansed. You need to be washed. And I need to quit because I am out of time. We walk by faith, not by sight.
All right, I'm going to give you 5 key points. Point number 1, identity was replaced. One of the first things slavery attacked wasn't the body, it was identity. Many enslaved Africans were stripped of their birth names and assigned names chosen by enslavers or were identified by their owner's surname. This wasn't simply administrative because it severed connections to ancestry, ethnicity, language, and family history. The Bible repeatedly demonstrates the importance of names because names represented identity, purpose, and inheritance. Point number 2 is that families were deliberately broken. One of slavery's cruelest realities was the destruction of families. Husbands were sold away from wives. Parents were separated from children. Children often never saw their parents again. Generations grew up without knowing grandparents, cousins, or family history. And when family history disappears, identity becomes much harder to preserve. Point number 3 is that culture was erased. Slavery attempted to erase language. It attempted to erase customs. It attempted to erase religious traditions. And it attempted to erase history, plus tribal identity. See, the goal wasn't simply labor. The goal was total control. People disconnected from their past become easier to redefine. Point number 4, generational trauma didn't end with emancipation. Freedom ended legal slavery, but it didn't instantly restore what had been lost. Entire generations inherited fractured families, limited educational opportunities, economic barriers, and missing historical records. Healing often takes much longer than the original wound. Point number 5, the greatest danger today is forgetting or not wanting to try to remember it all. And Dr. Price raises an important challenge. If history can be erased, future generations become disconnected from where they came from. Whether someone agrees with every conclusion or not, studying history matters. Knowing history makes it easier for myths and misinformation to replace facts. So in closing, the greatest victory over any people isn't merely conquering them physically. The greatest victory is convincing future generations that their history doesn't matter. History should never be used to promote hatred. It should be used to promote understanding. So, if we know where we've been, we're better equipped to know where we're going. And as Christians, we believe every human being bears the image of God, and truth should lead us toward wisdom, reconciliation, and justice, not just division. So, continue to renew your mind. Enough said.
Imagine having a company's logo burned into your skin with a red-hot iron. For millions of enslaved Africans, that wasn't punishment, it was proof of ownership. In 1526, King Afonso I of Congo wrote to the King of Portugal describing what happened to his kidnapped subjects. He wrote, As soon as they are taken by white men, they are immediately ironed and branded with fire. The branding of enslaved Africans was not an aberration or an act of individual cruelty. It was a systematic commercial practice, as routine and as legally sanctioned as the branding of livestock, that was documented in thousands of business records, insurance contracts, ship manifests and plantation inventories across 4 centuries. The Royal African Company, chartered by the English Crown in 1672 and given a legal monopoly on the English slave trade, branded its enslaved cargo on the chest or arm with the letters DY for the Duke of York, who later became King James II, and later with the letters RAC for the Royal African Company. The branding established legal proof of ownership. It was performed on the African coast before the captives were loaded onto ships. It was performed again sometimes at Caribbean ports on arrival to establish that the cargo had survived transport. It was performed again sometimes on American plantations to mark a change of ownership after sale. The instruments were purpose-made. Iron rods with specific letter or symbol configurations at their end that were heated in fire until they glowed and then pressed into human skin. The pain was severe. The wound required weeks to heal. The scar was permanent, specifically designed to be permanent, specifically designed to be readable as a mark of ownership years or decades later. Witnesses described the branding sessions. Described people screaming. Described the smell of burning flesh over the sound of business being conducted. Described the branders moving from person to person with the efficiency of workers completing a processing task. The historical record is unambiguous. This was not the act of isolated sadists. This was a codified business practice backed by the full weight of European corporate charters, royal warrants and parliamentary legislation. When people ask how ordinary men could do these things, the answer is that they were not doing extraordinary things. They were following documented procedures in a legally sanctioned commercial system designed in European capitals by educated men who went home to their families at night.